Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. Happy Father's Day. We have a very special event for you guys tonight. We have three fathers joining us tonight as they're here to talk about fatherhood and their experience as a father. But before we get into that, before we get into the show, Sakyan is also here. Myself and Sakyan will be guiding this conversation. Hi Sakyan, how was your week?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm also good. Today was very hectic, as you know, because fathers. So we can jump right into introducing our panel. We have with us Mr. Jamal Collins. We also have with us Jermaine Buchanan, and we have with us my father, Sam Franks. And if allow me to call you Sam for the rest of the night, because your guest. If you guys want to just introduce yourselves, maybe you can talk about how long you've been a parent and how many children you have, and anything else you want the viewers to know.
Hey, good night, good night. So I guess I'll just start the ball rolling. My name, as she would have mentioned previously, is Jamal. I have two daughters, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. And so I was asked to be a part of this discussion tonight. I just bring my little 2 pence so that we can benefit from each other. So that's basically it.
Awesome, awesome. Jermaine, you want to go?
Yeah, no problem. My name is Jermaine, as I said. I'm the manager of Rock and Dirt Limited. I have a 1-year-old, so I'm new to this thing still. But I'm just here to listen to the veterans now, to learn something.
Yeah. Sam?
Good evening. My name is Sam Franks. I have 3 children, and the thing they're not really able to understand. It is what it is. We're going to tell you about everything by the show. My perspective is that I'm a senior citizen who has 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl.
I'm not a father.
Awesome.
I'm here. I'm here.
So you have to be, you have to be, you have to be.
I to be. Deep fish what?
Awesome, guys. I just want to let you guys know that our viewers already know that we are very, very casual. And I don't want, because I know each one of you like to talk. And I know each one of you ain't afraid to say what's on your mind. So, as we get the ball rolling, please don't let me have to be probing. We're here to break the stigma and to have a conversation on a very important societal issue. And we're here to get you guys' opinions. So just to get the ball rolling, how has fatherhood been? We could go with Manny. I'll call you Manny. Because you're new to this. How has it been for you?
It's an experience. It's fun. It's really fun. Challenging at some point because this guy you got to be responsible for another life, and also mentally, it could be mentally draining, especially with this whole situation with Corona.
Yeah.
Because for yourself, you're thinking about the child as well,
Exactly. Oh wow. Jamal, you have the eldest is 5 years old. I was raising 2 beautiful girls.
Yes. Well, for me, fatherhood has an exciting and rewarding journey. Um, I am. For me, I've always been next to me because I'm able to share in the overall development. I can see my daughter progress, not just physically, educationally, but also socially. And so, whereas sometimes it can be a bit challenging, now I have two as to one. I kind of learned from what I would have experienced from the first one into the second. So, on a whole, as I say, it's a rewarding and exciting journey for me that I look forward to.
Daddy, you've been in
I
this
find
game
myself,
since Kingdom Come.
I find myself looking at this
Sorry,
from
can everybody hear
different.
him?
No.
No?
It's
Not
pretty
quite.
soft.
I find myself
I
looking at
think it might
this
be
this
Okay, hold on one moment.
But okay, well, I is dealing with that. Jamal and Jeremy, as an upcoming father to be, because all of us are young. What you would warn me about the major warning? What you would call the major warning?
Warning? When you say warning, what do you mean? What is the.
Because okay,
Mhm.
like the biggest shock to you. What was like, wow, really got to this? Like, wow. Maybe
Well,
just a change in
well,
the
to be
diaper,
honest,
the inability to go
okay,
out
well,
and lay and so.
okay, well, to be honest, the thing about fatherhood, when you actually
one, two,
just start, it's a big
Mm-hmm.
game changer.
1, 2, 3, 4.
One, as you say, no longer you have to think about
1, 2, 3.
yourself. You know have to think you and others. So you have to now think about your offspring. So whereas you could have just say, hey, I can get up, go down the road to line with the fellas. I can just go
Mm-hmm.
across the road to do something. You no longer can do that
Uh,
because then if you leave all this train and mommy alone, then you know what will be the outcome. You will have to
uh,
sacrifice. So trust me, when it comes to fatherhood, it's a lot of things that you have to sacrifice, a lot of things that you'll have to give up. And so as time goes by, you're going to transition. But one of the hardest things is when the child is in its infancy stage, like the first few months. You just have to, because like every other 3 hours you have to feed them. Yeah. So you'll have to adjust and you'll have to help out as much as possible. It could really be a strain mentally. To look out for those things.
most definitely, most definitely. I hear that. I hear that for sure. I am no cognizant. Jeremy, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I agree with Jamal. I mean, he took the words right out of my mouth. The main thing is change and sacrifice. So, I was a man always on the court in the basketball. And after getting a child, I had to cut back on a lot of things. You know what I mean? Age,
Mm-hmm.
infants, you know what I mean? What I would warn you about though is make sure you're ready for financially. Make sure you're stable. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
like Jamal said, you ain't worrying about your life now, you're worrying about another life. So you got to make sure you got everything in place so you can, handle your business for that. Don't rush. But follow a lot of them young talking about it. They just want to big up some yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, take your time.
I respect that. I hear you. I hear you for sure. I hear you for sure. With that being said, we just burning time until Sam and I don't get this out good. What you would say when we finish that, Sam? How important you think fatherhood is? Not just to the offspring, but to your personal development as a father, as an individual. It's like how important you think fatherhood is,
I mean,
and both you
fatherhood,
and
fatherhood is of utmost importance. I mean, fatherhood, we in a society right now where we in a society right now where women raising men. You know what I mean? The women doing a great job, you know what I'm saying, but at going wrong and you might be able to step up and give it a shot. So you have no love for society, for this part, basically. It's very important.
I hear you, Mr. Watt. I hear you. I hear you. For sure. For sure. Jamal, over there, quiet.
Yes. I didn't hear you because the audio went just a little bit. You could repeat?
No, me German.
Yeah. No, you asked the
Oh, okay,
question.
okay. Yeah, how important, how significant fatherhood is, and well, not just to the offspring, but in the individual as well, like perceive fatherhood in terms of importance.
Well, for me, fatherhood actually teaches you some life development skills because with fatherhood, you now have to learn time management and about compromising. So you have to give up certain things for certain things, as I said. So as an individual, it actually helps you in your overall development because
Mm-hmm.
with fatherhood, as I said before, you no longer think about yourself. So whereas some persons would put it and say, hey, it's all about just the child. Fatherhood actually helps you as a parent, an individual, with your maturity. Because whereas you may have been thinking back then about small boy mentality, as you will say it in colloquial terms, you now have to think about like a man. So you have to man up. So it actually, helps you to mature mentally, not just physically. And so as an individual, it actually helps you overall to be a
Yeah,
father.
sure. I hear you. I heard that. I heard that for sure. Ayana, you back? How you
Yeah,
feeling?
I'm back. We had some technical
How you
difficulties, so
feeling?
I just here.
I
I feel
realize. I
good.
realize. We
I'm
just
just
push
listening to
Sam
you guys.
Collins up by.
Uh,
We just pull Sam. We just pull Sam up to the time.
yeah. uh,
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sam Franks. I'm told that you won't hear my voice earlier. I was introduced as the father of Ayano, who is now going to call me Sam for the first time in her short life. um, I'm glad to be joining this conversation, but I've been listening for the last, 5 or so minutes, and I recognize that whereas the young fathers on the program are more or less forward-looking, forward-thinking, person who is going to be looking in the rearview mirror, having had the experience of being a father to three children, the oldest of whom is something like 47 years old, and the youngest, my only daughter, Ayana, who is, well, whatever. You got to be
awesome. You guys made some excellent points as it relates to father. I'm not sure if I can ask you guys, but what were your expectations before you became a father, and after you became a father? Like, did your expectations surpass? What? Tell me.
Hey, Mr. I can do it. Watching you move now, yo. That's
Yeah, what was
he
the
feel that one.
what
He
were your
feel that one.
expectations?
Um, to be honest, I had none. I had no expectation because I didn't know what to expect. It was a new experience. I just figured I would learn as I go ahead, but I was more fearful than anything. But in terms of expectations, honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I was just afraid.
that's a good question, really. From my perspective, I've seen the role of fatherhood change. When I look at the role my father played in our lives, because there are some 10 of us as siblings, and the role I played in my family's life as a father, when I had my two boys, and then my changed role as a father when I was more as a single parent with Ayano. So the expectation of fatherhood has changed. I didn't expect, one would have expected my father to walk me to school
Yeah.
or be with him in any form or fashion, but to be a kind of a silent, kind of on the side person, especially when he's among his friends.
Yeah.
It was the kind of speak when spoken to, answer when you're called at the time. But that was
That was then.
that was then.
That
That was
was
then.
yeah.
But his role was provider.
Yeah.
He was provider and main chastiser.
Yeah.
Just the fact that wait until your father come home
Yeah.
was enough to keep you in line.
Yeah.
Just that. To keep you in line. That was then. It kind of worked for me during the life of my first two boys. But I have seen that it doesn't work these days. Mothers really are in control of the household in most cases, and they are the ones who lay down the rule. And
Yeah.
the judge and
Judge and jury.
jury in every case, in most cases.
Yeah.
But I've also seen though young fathers carrying their children to school, carrying on the children the march, the child month march, and so on, and so it has been a total shift, generational shift in the role that father plays. I do not think that the role of the court was as stringent then as it is now. And to be quite honest with you, I do not feel as if the imposition of the court in the role of fatherhood has not always been positive.
Yeah.
But the jury's out on that. But I can tell you cases where, I know of cases where the intervention of the court, whether it is for child support or you with a particular parent, has not been in child.
Yeah.
Yes.
But pause, stick a pin right there. I'm going to ask Jamal to follow up, and then I'll come back to a very important point that Daddy made, Sam made just now. Jamal, fatherhood, did it meet your expectations?
To be quite frank, growing up, I grew up in a single parent, and so getting the whole experience of what fatherhood would be like for myself, I never had that exposure because growing up, as I say, in a single parent family household, yes, my father was a provider in terms of economics, but in terms of the overall experience, I never encountered that. So when it was now my time to say, hey, become a father, there were more questions than answers. What will it be like out for? But whereas there were more questions than answers, there was one thing that I held on to steadfastly, and that was my commitment to learn as much as I can to be the best dad that I can.
Wow.
So whereas I didn't have the pathway that guided me to being a father, at least I had to create that from the foundation.
You learn on the job.
As you frankly asked, so I learned on the job. So in terms of my expectations, what I was expecting or what have you, it was as I went along. But I can say, as I said, it's a learning experience, and definitely where I am now, there's a lot that I've learned and that I'm thankful for.
Awesome. Daddy made the point of you and Daddy and Jamal made the point of provider. That term is used very loosely in a lot of sentences and speeches. What is a provider, and what is a father's role in a child's life? Is it to meet financial expectations? Is it to meet emotional expectations? What do you provide for a child? You can start with Jamal.
Okay. For a child, as I say, we normally use the word provider quite loosely. But provider is not just financial support. Being a provider, you need emotional support. Okay? Emotional support. And providing the emotional support, this helps with the development of the child's overall well-being. As a provider, you have to provide physical security for your child. Because you as your child, a child is vulnerable. They're exposed to the world. So as a father now, you now have to provide that physical security for your child to, hey, let them know, hey, I'm here as a protector. I'm here I am here as someone who, you can call upon whenever you feel threatened, whenever you feel it drained, you can call upon me. And so, as I say, as a provider, so most persons will see provider as, let me say most fathers will see the word provider as only the finance, and they exclude everything else. So all they think, hey, the court said to provide $100 for the child. But whereas you're providing just the financials, that will not assist in terms of the overall well-being of the child, because there are other needs that the child do have. You understand? So if you provide financials, then you're meeting all your expectations as a father.
Jamal, you're very correct.
I felt that.
You're very correct, because it is the non-tangible things that are so very important. Things like values, security, balance. Those things are very important in a child life, as well as providing history. Growing up, I remember people will see on the road and say, "Hey, young, ain't it?" A child knows it belongs. The child knows it belongs, and those things are very important. It provides a broader base they can conduct their life. So yes, those are important rules of record in other areas.
Very true. So, Jermaine, Manny, you quite over there. What do you think? Sorry?
I was listening. I hear to learn from the veterans because I'm the newest in the game. But as a provider, I think most fathers want to just providing financially, and that's a big role, yes. But at the same time, I think the most important role as a provider is providing guidance. Because in all honesty, with my mother, my father, anybody know my father, he was always working. But as a child, when I look back, I would normally gravitate to whoever I see as a role model, as a father figure in the absence of my father at the time. So thankfully I grew up with a lot of uncles and so forth, and they were great role models. So I basically emulate from these guys. I mean, I basically follow these guys and learn from my father. Plus, when he was not there, learn from my uncles and so forth. And that's something I think that people, a lot of fathers, don't realize. Children do what they see. You know what I mean? So, guidance. I think that's the most important thing you need to do as a provider. That is the role of the father as a provider of tangible things is something that the court promotes, and it really has been a problem in our society, I think. The court focuses on money, and it is being used as a weapon. Sorry.
Two things. German. Just to, I don't want to use the word piggyback because that's kind of a Leicester word, but to piggyback off what you're saying, I have to kind of add to what you're saying. It's like yeah, the guidance is important and so, but how do you step into the new realm of being bossy in terms of your ways, in terms of you letting the child be able to make their own mistakes so they could learn, because experience is the greatest teacher. And I mean, ain't all the
Yeah.
time we need to experience things to learn, because
Yeah.
sometimes you could really learn from other people. It's definitely a fact, but I feel like sometimes it has come off as we putting a leash on the child to the point where they have like little nearly no experience because they've been sheltered, and it's like,
Yeah.
how do
When
they
they are
mature after being sheltered for so long? It's like,
Well,
I see it
yeah.
a lot,
yeah.
to be honest. I see it a lot. And as young fathers, I don't really want to admit a mistake because the time's changing. From when Sam was rearing a yano, things completely different now. They got a phone, and it's like they got a plethora of information sources to their fingertips. So it's like, yeah, guide them, but it's like, I just don't want to make that mistake of stepping into the realm of you being like bossy or like, it's my way or the
On the
highway.
highway.
Well, that's
You,
a good
you have
point.
to understand. You have to understand that you can't take away the prerogative of the parent. You can't take away the prerogative of the parent. That's the first thing. And a lot of behavior is in the gene. Of course, the parent and the community influence it. But yes, those things are changing. Are they changing for the better? That's the question. Are they changing for the better? Uh, because we've had some well citizens who've had, you might think, difficult situations where this were strong persons, and they have contributed to our national development in a very positive way. Uh, so one can be quiet and still forceful. It isn't to say you're being cowed down by your parent or something. It's just that it is your maybe demeanor, but it doesn't prevent you from being who you are.
Yeah.
I don't.
And
Yeah,
I hear
man.
you, loud and clear, Sam. I hear you. But I think the word is
Uh,
open mindedness. I feel like that would be the determinant. That would be the constraint from you stepping into the realm of, being bossy. The whole shutting down your child is open mindedness, is understanding that they have their own experiences as well. They're going to stuff, they're growing, and it's like, understand that they are growing. Let them go. But as you were saying, Jeremy, I'm not a father. I'm an
yeah,
outsider. I'm a spectator.
yeah. You raise a good point. I would say you raise a real good point. But thankfully for me, before I became a father, I had the opportunity or the responsibility to actually be the boss of grown men. You understand? And honestly, dealing with grown men harder than dealing with a child. You'd be surprised. In being a manager and being a boss, if you start, I don't like to call it. Being a manager and dealing with different cultures and so forth, you learn that ain't everybody think alike, ain't everybody do the same thing. You know? So there
Sorry,
is some
mainly you're
points
kind
where
of breaking up. Mainly you're making a good point and you're breaking up. Repeat what you said. I don't want to miss it.
you can hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I was saying, thankfully, I had the opportunity to be a boss, a manager, before I was actually a father, right? And dealing with employees, you learn that people don't always think the same. Everybody got different mentality, different culture, different ways of doing things, you know? So you got to treat everybody different. Treat them equally, but treat them different. You know what I mean? Because I would somebody, oh, do this way. They would not see it my way. But they would do it some other way to get the same result. So you find you got to treat everybody different. So back then, I think was for me was good at, you know, that, that's how children. I'm saying to you is that I want him to be himself. I want him to be himself. I'm not going to give all the lead way and let him just do what he want. But at the same, I guide him, yes. But at the end of the day, you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make the horse drink. So as much as you try, at the end of the day, it depends on the child's mentality and what the child really wants.
That
But
is so
like I say, you
true.
just guide and you try to get the child to be who the child wants to be in terms of person.
Awesome. Before we
If I
switch
if
to
I
more,
can,
I just want to read some comments here. Lady Call said, I am proud to see the very involved role Jamal plays in the lives of his girls. Our children need their fathers and daddies. She also said, our children grow and develop, not only in the homes, but they also have influence in school, communities, peers, the internet, and more. What is important is that parents strengthen. I think she meant strength. She also said the safety circle around that child by building a network of persons who are on the same as it relates to your principles.
Very correct.
okay, I was actually going to chip in based on what Manny and the
Okay.
guests would have been mentioning. So for
Sakyan,
me,
Sakyan.
when it comes
Oh,
to Sakian, okay, yeah. So for me, when it comes to parenting, it's a two-way street. It should not be dictated, but it should be communicated. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Sakian would have said, "Hey, you want to tell the child what to do, how to live a life, and what to have you." That is where most parents go wrong, because the younger generation, they are rebellious. Just want to dictate what the child does. It will be a lot of rebellion, and then the outcome that you're looking for will not be favorable. So instead of dictating, it's always best to communicate, ask questions, be involved. Let it be a two-way street. Hey, what was the day? Is there something that's bothering you? Okay, how can I help father? What can I do? You know, because whereas dictating to a child used to work back then with Sam, I guarantee you he try that now because hey, that's never going to work. So then what may have worked back then, it's not applicable now. So as times have changed, the parenting skills, the parenting rules, that also have to change. So I know us, hey, let children um, learn on their own. You may be true to an extent, but why let a child get burned when you can prevent them from reaching that thus far? What you provide is the guidance, as Maney said, and you actually let them know, hi, I've experienced such
I
and
don't
such.
want to let's move on.
Yeah, so if I have experienced X, why realize that it was detrimental to me? Why would I allow my child to go and experience X? It doesn't make sense because I want him experience is the greatest teacher. Most young people use that terminology too loosely. Experience may be the greatest teacher, but in certain circumstances, you also have to be practical. It's not always the greatest teacher because no sense for us to reinvent the wheel. As Manny say, he's into business. I bet if Manny have an idea, he wouldn't just try and research it on his own. He'll go and see who have done this idea before. What are the benchmarks? How have they progressed? How have they regressed? No need for us to reinvent a wheel. So that is what I'm saying. Whereas you may select
It's
an
nice to
experience
see.
and the greatest teacher, not all the time.
It's nice to see that we are very passionate about this whole fatherhood conversation, and this is what we're hoping to achieve, that passion. But we have to move on, guys. To move on.
I just want to say this.
Jamal.
This
Noted
Yes,
with
go
that.
ahead.
Yes.
I was a rebellious child.
Yes,
Go ahead
he
now.
had to put it in. Okay. To move it
Family
on.
keep people mango and so yo. Oh,
Um, Manny would have mentioned, he had to find that fatherhood role in his uncles. A lot of children especially in this generation, don't really have a father figure to look up to, or a male figure to look up to. How important do you think is father figures in a child's life? And we may have touched on it, but I just want to kind of reiterate the point. How important do you think on the psychological aspect and the mental aspect of a child, how important do you think having both parents in a household is on a child's development? Anybody could just take the mic right now. Take the mic. Just go ahead.
How important is fatherhood so that
The parents' influence.
How important is having both, or having a father figure, even if it may not be your biological father? How important is having a father figure, a male figure in a child's life?
I'll tell you something.
well,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
In my case, I had two boys when I was married. I was married very young, got them very young, but at the time I was very much involved in sports and other activities, community activities and so on. And so I left most of the parenting to my then wife, their mother. I left all of the parenting to their mother. When I got Ayana, when Ayana was born, it was a totally different situation. Her mother died, and so I'm a single. And then my responsibility as a father changed. And then I became a father, in the true sense of the father. And to be honest with you, I feel as if more young men ought to be, I'm not saying you must get married and so on, but ought to be given that responsibility by the system, by the courts, by the mothers and so on, by society, to be a father. I mean, to be a father.
We have to influence, we have to change the tone a bit. We do.
Until, not just the give you so much a week and that's it, and so on, feels if his role is finished. The court must follow through, make sure that it gets time with the
psychological,
with the father and his peers and so on. And some persons who we write off would have made wonderful fathers.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, in a lot of cases,
they weren't given
fathers or mothers, parents, this is within a single home situation, come with they want benefits.
Yeah.
You can get your child and somebody people expect benefits in providing for the child, and it's not fair for the child to the child.
Jermaine, you had something to say as it relates to how important is the father figure in the household or in a child's life. I think it was Jermaine.
Yeah, well.
Okay. If you could.
Yeah, well. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was saying, even if the father is not in the household per se, he at least needs to be in the child's life, because, like I said, the whole point I was making earlier was guidance. And guidance is very important, because at the end of the day, the child gonna look to somebody to see how they deal with situations, and they're gonna try to base their life on that. Likely I grew up around a lot of uncles and so forth, because I grew up in what you call the ghetto side of Sandy Point, Montero, Saho, them kind of sides, and I used to, in all honesty, my mother would know, until now my mother, but I used to be up and down with some of them guys and go mountain. It was fun. But when you look back now and see the kind of things he's done, I could have been in jail now. So,
yeah.
Like I say, I mean, guidance is important. Even if you're not in the household, it's good to be in the child's life, and that's about it. The next thing too is that you find a lot of men, even when they're not in the household, or even when they're in the household, a lot of women use the child as a weapon, basically, and
Exactly.
that's one thing I never agree with. And what women don't understand is that you're not hurting the father per se, you're more so hurting the child. that the child gonna grow up and he gonna realize what the reason really was. So that's my 2 cents on the whole topic.
Jamal, you have anything to add before I go to the next question?
Yeah. Well, as you say about the importance of the father within the household, for me, having a father within a household is important because a father figure, it almost like it enforces rules. So whereas if you realize with a child, a mother can say something, but the child may not gravitate to what the mother is saying. They will still do what they please. But just let a father use his tone and tell the child, hey, you know, you see how easy it is for the child to just react. And just by the father being within that household, as I said, it acts like an enforcing rule. Because what we are realizing in society, the lack of fathers within households, is one of the driving forces for which we have delinquent children right now. Because I myself had a previous experience. I never used to be the way that I am right now. Okay, because growing up as a teen, you would be inquisitive. You want to know, hey, what is on the other side? I see all these boys getting into these things, and so you want to join. You want to see, hey, what's life about? As a teenager, and so you choose that path. But then, if you have a father figure now, you're not going to think once, not going to just think twice, but you'll think until you will think, and eventually you just say, bye now, because I know that he's not going to make any joke with me. So that's one of the main things, as I said, for me, having a father within a household to enforce rules.
That is, Jamal, that is so true. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I chose it, because I know you would have always mentioned this path. And so I'm so happy that you mentioned it. But my next just to kind of tie in a few things, Jermaine would have made again the comment that a lot of mothers use the child as a weapon. And so sometimes, if you guys can agree, there's this kind of stigma behind fatherhood that they also made the comment that the courts also don't really push the real role of a father. It's just mostly monetary contribution to this household. So what are the stigmas of fatherhood, and how can we change the tone on these stigmas? Because a lot of mothers, they oftentimes don't give the father the opportunity to be fathers. They already start to say all of these bad things about the father. He messed up one time and then he's a no good, he's a deadbeat, he's a donor, he's all of this, tarnished the name, tarnished the reputation. But in the Caribbean or in St. Kitts, as we can look at, you guys could say that there's a stigma on the perception of a father.
Before you even answer, right? Before you even answer, you see, I want to mention the whole deadbeat thing, and we know here establishing that financial what you want to say, assistance ain't the most important, but you you don't provide this financial assistance or contribution, and that's what they call you. That's what they classify you as. Deadbeat father. I'm gonna put child support on you. I see this here. I see this.
Because that's what most mothers want, That's what most mothers want. And taking care of a child is not easy. So yes, of course we want that monetary assistance to help with the child, to buy pampers, to buy formula, to buy clothes. The child going so fast, you got to buy a next pair of shoes the next day. So the donation, the contribution varies, but there's other stigmas.
I don't know if the contribution is the right word, because it is your responsibility to provide.
The responsibility.
So you contribute, and that is where the problem is.
Okay.
Because some mothers take it as contribution to her expenditure, and so in her planning, her budget week, it includes hairstyle and this and that and that, and all those things. It must not be seen as a contribution. It must be seen. It must be can to. It is your responsibility to provide that too. Not only to provide that, but to provide that also.
Yeah.
Because the other things are committed.
Right.
How do we get fathers without understanding that that is their role, and mothers should know to know that it cannot be used as a whip. It can't be used as a whip.
Jermaine laughing. Jermaine, what you have to say?
No, some like what's going on. Some say these girls using to do hairstyle and so.
Yeah, it happens.
That killing me, man.
Remember here on this like 2 generations, eh? So
Yeah.
But I need to make go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you actually. It's not contribution, it's ability. Because at the end of the day, a child ain't cheap. I could tell you that child is not cheap, especially in an age where prices just keep going up. You know what I mean? So mothers, yeah, they do need help and they do need the finances. The problem is when the mothers ain't using the finances for the properly for the right thing, and then they just want you ain't get them a little extra for something. Because some fathers ain't got that much. You know what I mean? They ain't that comfortable, and that's what I was telling the youngster earlier. You got to make sure you're financially stable before you try to rush and tap. You're going to pick up a belly yard and kind of thing. You know what I mean? Make sure you got it there ready. But yeah, it's when they misuse the money, that's where the problem starts. And then when you ain't get them a little extra, it's like a jump up and you ain't gonna see a child and like they're using them as a weapon. I mean, in our women like that, that's some real good mothers. Thankfully, I was blessed to have a real good mother and a real good child mother. So yeah, but I see that. Some way, some
just to
girls
interject
use the
with
money.
some comments. Just to interject with some comments. Jalanda Isaac said definitely mothers and fathers need to recognize that fathers are more than just financial providers. Emotional, physical support is also a big deal. And she also said that yes, Sam made a great point. The court also plays a role in enforcing the ideology that it's only about the money. And then Lady Call said, I think it's because our society has labeled fathers as financial arms in parenting. If a father cannot provide finances for whatsoever reason, he is deprived from spending quality time with the children.
That's correct.
And that is so true. I think that it always stems from the system. Like Daddy said, the court, for example, if you're not able to meet that $100 a week or however much it is obligation, then it's like, oh, he's on the bench. But you put him on the bench, he ain't got no time to spend with his child. Eh?
The other thing is mothers must understand their responsibility too in having children. They must understand that they have a responsibility to provide for the child too. And they must have a father who would provide as well, not because the court says, because the person who they choose to be their father will provide.
Right.
So women, ladies, have a responsibility as well.
Yeah. Jamal, what you have to say?
As it relates to the what the same most persons are singing or reiterating is that society has placed a perception that a figure is mainly financial.
Society
you cannot provide that financial support. So once you cannot provide that particular need, that's it. As they say, your label is a deadbeat. And what happened as well is that some mothers, for whatever reason, they may have had past grievances. They just, when it comes to the child,
Yeah.
They just believe that, hey, I'm gonna pump all the blood out of no matter what. But they don't understand at the end of the day, it's not the man that they are affecting, it's the child. Because let me tell you, with a man, as a man, we're not hard to please. It's not much that you have to do to get us involved. But if all that we are hearing are the negatives, they're not positives. There's nothing at all there that says, hey, you know what? Because I could be doing 5 good things, and all because I don't do one thing for you, I'm labeled as a deadbeat. How would I feel as an individual? I have emotions as well. But if you provide for me and say, hey, I appreciate what you do, then psychologically, I as an individual will look to, hey, see how best I can have you appreciate other things that I do. So then don't just look at one spectrum. Don't just look at one spectrum, but show us appreciation. Whatever little we do, show us the appreciation. And appreciation goes a long way. A very, very long way. You know?
I would say one thing. Jolanda said something in a comment earlier that once you have sex, you know, you're on a risk of having a child and be prepared for that. Right? So I wouldn't, being appreciated and showing appreciation would really be nice. But at the end of the day, it's the responsibility, and whether appreciated or not, they're gonna always give me role. But at the end of the day, say one step up, you can't just be one sided. So at the same time, you got some man out here, one to see the woman or the child mother, the next man she ain't giving him no peace, no nothing. You know, he stop supporting all these things. So
Javid,
I was saying, say one to two. You can't be one sided because in always the woman's part. So you got some man too, right? Once the child mother ain't giving him nothing, the child mother got a man now. You know, the whole vibe change. They ain't supporting now and whatnot. You know? So there's a lot of different things out there. You just need to take the responsibility serious and just focus on the child.
There's been very great points, guys, but there's been this, as we're still on this whole stigma thing, a lot of Caribbean fathers are very absent. Why do you think that is? Do you guys think that is just the mentality of the men, or how society raised these men to be as just, how should I say? In the Caribbean, let's look at it in the Caribbean, black men especially, they have multiple children. There's no commitment to one woman. They just come and they leave.
I hate to say
Okay,
this, but
okay.
to me it goes back from slavery times, really, because you have to remember it wasn't too long ago when, I mean, familyhood, if you look at that, among black people in this part of the world, in the form that it is in, is only recent. I mean,
we didn't have the nuclear family. Slaves were moving from,
yes, and there was no commitment to one particular. Of course, it has evolved somewhat, but there's still, only 200 years.
Yeah.
It's only 200 years.
But 200 years is a lot. But it's still the mentality.
It's a lot if it started on the run.
Okay.
But it started from zero.
Yeah.
It started from zero. I mean, there was nothing. There's nothing before that. It's not an excuse. Don't get me wrong. It's not an excuse, but it's the reality.
Right.
But however, I believe that the parents in my day had a stronger commitment to family than the mothers and fathers today. In saying that, I just want to say just stray a little bit and so on and say that the fact that children grow up in a home with mother and father present is no guarantee for the success of the child.
Right.
There are other things that are important in relationships besides the money. is like communication and other things. And so it is not the single parent or the father's absent really that is the main contributor to the breakdown of or the delinquency of our children.
Yeah. Jamal, you
Hey,
might ponder
yeah, because I know you stated about the mentality of to just have multiple women and moving around and what have you. But I'm always of the particular stance. You attract what you allow. I always have. So why I say that? Because a lot of young people, a lot of women, I blame them. I don't blame the man, because what happened is that a lot of young women, right? They know that a man is a bold dog. They know he up and down. But at the end of the day, they're still pushing in themselves. Why? And then when they go in, they see how he treated Jane. They expect a miracle to work for him to treat them different. It cannot. If he's already been delinquent with 1 to 3 different relationships, what think that he's going to be such a miraculous man all of a sudden to change his relationship with you? So therefore, so you can't just blame the man and say, oh, men going up here, there, and everywhere. Because a man is going to give you what you allow. So if you allow him to ill-treat you, if you allow him to parade you, if you allow him to just do what he wants, why he wouldn't do it? It takes a strong-minded individual to change that perception.
All in all, you're just saying that some of us need to just go ahead, Sakyan.
Jamal, hey, you want to ask? You want to grab me? Something, my boy. What I just say, right?
It's just a game of life.
They just call man dog, right? They call man dog. We being dog, quote unquote, with other females. Think about it. The females know we in a relationship, and they still sometimes approaching us here. They still allowing us to be the woman is to play.
It can go both ways. It can go both ways. As the only woman on this panel, it can go both ways. Because sometimes the woman has been down and she confusion and you know she like to chat people business. No. It goes,
that's how I be.
No, it goes two ways. It goes two ways. It goes two ways, Jamal. Sometimes y'all know how this woman operates, and you still lay in bed with her. Get a child for her. First of all, you ain't even using a condom, so you get a child for the girl, and then you expected what?
No, okay, you see that's the problem. You see that's the problem. There's no expectations, because the whole point was you link up with somebody because it was just for sexual gain. They don't link up with somebody and say, oh, well, some youngsters do it. Nobody else really link up to say, oh, buy one, make a child. It's just that just link up, they ain't using protection, or maybe the protection fail, and you get a child. That's how it normally happen right now. As Sam said earlier, which he was right. Back then, when it was more so to start a family. But we not in this generation that it means right now. Everybody link up to have a little fun. And then, boom, things happen. That's how it is right now.
I hear you guys. It's nice to hear the perspective of the male. Normally, we just hear the loud mothers. We had some mothers on for Mother's Day, and the perspective was quite different. So it's nice to hear the father's side of this whole situation. Hopefully, we have our consistent listeners who can now compare the two and make their own judgment accordingly. Nice to see the passion also. Great. How do we counteract these stereotypes now? So we already established, okay, there's this stigma against fathers and mothers calling these fathers deadbeat and only being a financial provider, etc., etc. How do we change the tone?
In lots of ways it has been changed. I mentioned the child parade and so on.
Yeah.
And, when you look at child month parade, well, we haven't had it for the last 2 years, but when you look at the fathers in the parade, when you look at fathers carrying the children to school,
Yeah, you know, just to
sometimes
stick up in, I always admire Jamal because when I used to work with Jamal at National Bank, 4 o'clock, come, he got to pack up to go pick up the children then. Pack up. And you would think, you know, what, I got to go pick up my children then, got to go pick up.
yeah.
And so I really, really admire because a lot of people would just be like, let the mother pick up. You know, I got things to do, but you know, he knew that that was his responsibility to pick up the children them after school, and he had to do it.
So quite well,
Quite
very,
right.
very, very, very well done. But those things are important for the public demonstration to the public that listening. I am a father and I am taking care of my responsibility. The more it is on show, the more people will change. But the attitude of mothers need to change too.
Yeah.
The attitude of mothers need to change. And
As just Jalanda, just as you said, Jalanda said that those women need to become empowered and choose not to allow inconsistent men to impregnate us. And so I guess it ties into the attitude we need to change. We need to become more. We need to respect ourselves and our what we want and our lives more.
and the court should be more cognizant of the need of fathers in the lives of children, not as a material provider,
Yeah.
but all of the other aspects that makes an individual a whole person.
So, for instance, school functions, homework, dance recitals, graduations, all of these play a significant role in the child's life because the child goes through these what they call stepping stones, and they look for their fathers,
That's
they look for their mothers, they
that's
look for
another
some sort of
important
support.
thing. That's
Yeah.
another important thing is school meetings,
Yeah. Pity.
PTA meetings. My father, I would have never expected my father to be at a PTA meeting. Never. It wouldn't have happened.
No?
Your mother go to the yes, wouldn't have happened. Today, when you go to a PTA, a good 30% of the persons right there are fathers. Amazing, but it's true. So things are changing, but we need to just kind of step it up a lot more, really. But things are changing.
It's
I don't
people
know. I don't know what
like
you
Jamal and Jeremy. It's more people like Jamal and Jeremy who change it. To be
But
honest,
what, but
that's
what
how I
is that?
see it.
you'll get your turn too. You're gonna get your turn as well, eh? Kittitian?
You're gonna end up some people that don't can't ignore it. It'll be like for you to say Caribbean fathers are bad majority, you'll be lying to yourself.
No, nobody's
So
saying that.
No,
it's
nobody
like
said that.
Nobody saying that.
no, I'm
There's
just saying we need
okay.
once we saturate the market with good fathers like Jermaine and
Oh,
Jamal, just blowing some just hyping up higher for a little bit. Once we saturate the market with these kind of people, they would have no choice but to change the mindset. That's how I see it, to be honest. But I mean, it's the younger people, so I guess we got a different mindset towards it. It's like we're more prone to that open mindedness because we know understand what it's like to not have one like Jamal or have a to have one that's not really that good. So it's like life teaching us what not to be like. Some of us
Yeah,
are ignorant, but yeah.
I think society right now with generation, we have a culture of following pattern or trend. Like we do with trend now. So something that just seem popular, that's what people follow.
Mm-hmm.
So I find, like you said, if fathers like me and Jamal with choice, then a lot of people start to follow, and that's how we basically change the whole perspective. Yeah, man.
Jermaine and Jamal, you guys are two young parents
Good
with
night.
young children. Oh, hi.
Hello.
The baby joining.
Jermaine,
Maybe it's the time.
Jermaine,
Okay.
Jermaine,
No, hello.
do you want me to hold my baby too?
Yeah, yeah.
Sam, Sam taking a
I was gonna, I was gonna say,
Uh,
times are changing. My father way of raising me would be completely different from how Jamal and Jermaine would raise their children. It in a couple shows before we would have made the remark that technology is taking over. Children are becoming more exposed, children are growing up differently. Do you guys think you will be able to adjust your parenting skills to suit the new generation?
Most definitely. Just with yeah, most definitely. One of the big problems that it has with parents is that they are resistant to change. And so once you're resistant to change, you're bound to fail. Why I say that? With the whole technology aspect, parents back then would not have been exposed to the technology. But now that they have a child who is now exposed to the technology, a lot of the parents, they do not even want to learn the technology. And once you see that happens, then the child is in a better position to what we normally would say run circles around the parent. So then, so then as time changes, you also have to change your approach. You have to change your perspective. You have to change quite a lot of different things. But say for as you stated about the technology, if you stay abreast with the technology, then hey,
But not even technology,
how
but
can they
just
run all these
trends in
circles around you?
general. Just trends in general, whereas you would have to be home before the sun go down. Now children have to be home before 9. Now it's like 11 o'clock in the night.
Or what clothes you should wear and what you
What
should
Okay,
wear
big.
home?
where you could go. A lot of children now you see them at parties and fetes and you see them downtown late night. Would you be able to change and say, okay, this is just how the culture is? No? Or to an
You see, and that's the
extent.
big
I would
One thing
it
don't change is values.
values.
correct.
Don't change
I
the
was
values.
just about to allude to that. I was just about to allude to that, Frank, because a lot of persons say, oh, change with the times, change with the times. But values remains irrespective of the times. If something is wrong, why do it still? Because hey, it's the in thing. It's what persons are doing now. So once you set the foundation in which you set values and you let your children know, hey, these are the expectations of mommy and daddy. These are what we want you to follow. Then therefore, as the Bible said, train up a child in the way it should go. So when it's old, it will not depart from it. So then once you set those foundation, it's almost like as the child grow, they'll know, hey, mommy and daddy will not appreciate this. Mommy and daddy will not want us to partake in this. So mommy and daddy will expect us to be XYZ. So as I said, not because things are changing, you must change your overall values.
I used to manage football teams in my younger days, and it puzzled me when these young guys in their teens, 18, 19, 20. I used to tell them, why is it that our young girls who have never left their home will go to university, spend 4 years successful and come back a success, and you young guys, as good as you are and as skilled as you are and so on, the minute you go overseas to get a trial and so on, you come back and you just mess up yourself. Always puzzled me. Um, but that is something that's a different topic. But really and truly, values are important. And a lot of our young people, may believe it, but they carry their values where they go, and they're only able to express it when they are different, setting. Yeah, you have their values, but they're able to express it in a different setting.
Jermaine, you have anything to add? I just want to read Lady Call's comments before you make your comments. She's been Very active. Hi, Lady Call. I don't know who you are, but thank you for participating in today's discussion. She said, women continuing to raise our standards where we choose wisely. The men we decide to be with and build a family with. She also said, it is for us to continue to sow seeds of love, empowerment, etc. into the lives and minds of our children. Continue to grow as parents. Learn more about the resources that exist to guide us. And she said, keep the channels of communications open, set values and principles at home, teach the children these, have conversations with them, let them understand why, get their feedback as well. Oh, Alicia Collins, hi.
What?
How
Oh, that's my
important is
sister.
mental health? How important is mental health as a father? I mean, some people that say mothers could be headaches, children could be headaches too. But how important is your mental health and taking care of your mental health and getting support also, not for you but also for your child? How important is it?
I oftentimes say that there's a very thin line between sanity and insanity. And so I could be good now, and within a day or day about something, actually, I go into a state of depression. And why is that often? Why does that happen? Because very often is that we as young people, we are not expressive. We prefer to just keep everything bubbling up within us, as opposed to seeking some sort of help. Say, hey, let's have a conversation. And so that is a big problem. So without having the conversation, we try to solve the problem on our own. And so when you do that now, you go into a state of depression, and you not only affect yourself, but you affect your family on a whole, your child, your spouse, whomever. So as you would have asked about the mental health, having good mental health is paramount, because one of your strongest organ that any individual has is their brain. And once your brain is not fully functional, that's it. All other organs will not be functional. So that is why it is important for you to, as we normally say, don't let nothing stress you. If there's something that is stressing you, discuss it. As I often would say to my wife, hey, if there's a problem, trash it out. Talk. Because I don't want to be in a house with you. Everything is buffled up. And when you look now, you're going south, I going north. Then mentally, we will only be deteriorating. So definitely having mental health is important in terms of keeping the family functional.
Definitely. Daddy, as a single father, how important. Imagine I have the opportunity to call my father Sam and I'm still out here saying daddy. How important is mental health? I mean, I feel like your generation, mental health, like Alicia would have said, is it's very taboo, and I think our generation, younger generation, we're more open to securing and making sure our mental health is in check. But the older generation tend to be a little bit more stubborn as it relates to speaking up and seeking that help. So you can.
But my answer is very simple, really. But before I answer it, let me just say that I grew up from in a time when I couldn't wait until I got old enough to call Daddy Stanley. Hey, Stanley! My father is Stanley Franks. Never happened. Never happened. I mean, as much as as big as I was in terms of doing this and doing that and so on, even in front of the Queen, I would call him Daddy. It wouldn't have mattered. So, I didn't say to say anything about you, but the answer my answer is very simple. We all know that if you abuse substances, then it has an impact on your mental health. And even if it is that, mental health affects how you interact with people, especially those who you have responsibility for. So it is, mental health is paramount, really.
Yeah.
And this is why you should never chastise your child when you're angry.
Right.
You know, the child must understand what it is that you are addressing. It's not daddy come home drunk and he just bang me off because he did something the week before last week, and or mother for that matter. So your attitude towards approaching each other on any matter actually is important, and it can be affected by abuse of any kind.
Saki, you're kind of quiet.
Something coming up.
Remember, I have the least amount of experience here, which is none here. So I just woke it up. I don't have any questions at the moment. I see Jolanda commenting like,
oh yeah,
she good. She good at Gladys tonight.
We love to see the daddy mode. We love to see the daddy mode, Jermaine.
I tell her thanks, man. Thanks, Jolanda.
She hear you. She hear you. Yeah, man. This has been crazy. I can't believe I am a father like this, to be honest.
Yeah.
He surprised me. I'm wrapping it up. I'm currently wrapping up.
Oh, sorry. Wait, I just... Were you surprised? You're surprised.
You're cool, I didn't expect that,
very cool.
to be honest. I didn't expect that. You surprised me, Sam. Well done. Well done.
I guess we can't
What is that?
Yeah, this is hilarious. I am, as you would.
I was just going to say, just a quick wrap up because it's an hour and a half, and we really had a lot of fun. I'm really happy to see everyone giving their input because I know a lot of you would have been a little bit nervous or shy before we would have started the stream. A little nervous before we started the stream, but now you're getting into the groove, you're kind of getting carried away. But just to kind of wrap up real quick, I want to know if you guys have any advice to people like Sakian or to people like Jeremy, especially Daddy, who's, again, the veteran. These are new fathers who's just coming into the role of fatherhood. What advice do you have to give to them? And then Jamal could take it from there.
It's a matter of choices. You have to choose. I mean, being a parent is a serious responsibility. It is more challenging now than it used to be in my time. And so you have to be selective in who you determine is going to be your partner in health. And I'm talking to just fathers and mothers, really. You have to be careful who your partner is going to be, and do not leave it to society or the court or this and so on to put pressure on the other half to give the best you can provide for each other. Because being a parent is a special gift, a special privilege that you have been given, and you have to make the best of it. You just can't leave it up to to chance. It's not fair to the child. It's not fair to society. It's not fair to you. So just choices. You have to choose who you're going to be, who's going to be your partner in having a child. And once you have decided that, it shouldn't happen. Oh, guess what happened? It shouldn't be like that. And once you've made a decision, then you commit yourself to it as best you can.
Right.
I mean, to be honest with you, sometimes I see some children, because you can look at children at age 3 and 4, and they're gonna be a burden to society. No, this is serious. I mean, teachers would know that. Teachers in primary school would know that child there, 5, 6 years old, is going to be a burden to society, and it's really because the parents have not given them the parentage that they ought to have gotten. And the other thing is, as a society, the other thing is, to be, as you mentioned, as a society, we leave too much to our schools and institutions, and it must not be.
It starts at home.
It is at home. Yes, sorry.
Jamal, quickly.
Okay. Well, for me, I think that each individual will be responsible for changing the tone of how things are. By doing that, I think that one, we need to stop living a promiscuous lifestyle and focus more on a family structure that encapsulates both parents. So the nuclear family, as it would often be referred to, would be the better family structure. This would ensure that both parents are involved in the child's life. This would assist with the child, having a better overall experience. See that they can see both mommy and daddy, and they can actually learn from mommy and daddy's teaching and experiences. So in order for us to change going forward, we first need to change our behavior. Then that is where we'll actually see a change in society. And as it says, each change starts with you. So whatever little that you as an individual can do, then let that be a start. A start do not have to be, hey, a big start, but little steps by steps, they ended up coming into habits. And over a period of time, you know what habits does. They are part of us. So let us all make an effort to make a change in society so that we can, see St. Kitts on a whole, not just St. Kitts, but the world in a large, be in a better place.
Awesome. Jermaine, closing remarks.
My closing remarks will be different. My thing is, we need to invest in our future, and our future is our children's future. Right? When I get a child, nobody ever thinks this, but I think the best thing to do, get insurance for your child, medical and health and whatnot, and start like account for your child. For school and whatnot, because the major problem in society right now, everybody want to go to school, everybody want better their education, but nobody got no money, and debt's killing us. You know what I mean? In families in the States, like, mostly white families and whatnot, by the time the child reach 20, they don't got the college funds there. And we as black people, I find that we don't really do that down here. So I feel we need to invest in our children and stop, and Sam, I hope the same for you. When we children reach 18 and so, stop the straw bill and them, let them get time to make the money, and yeah, I'm not trying to look out for you, eh?
I'm very guilty.
Yeah, invest in on our children.
Awesome. Sakia, you're closing up tonight.
Firstly, I'd just like to thank the invited guests for coming through. Sam, Jamal, Lord, and Jermaine. Thanks for encouraging such a healthy discussion, and I hope the viewers, along with myself, learn something and will definitely carry it with us through our experience in fatherhood. Special thanks to Sam, for trying the technology. Appreciated. Jamal for investing the time here.
May I understand where you pick my father, Showing what technology. Showing what technology.
It's kind of stereotypical, so I don't want to say it. It's stereotypical, but still, and I'm just bigging him up. Big up Sam. Sam is my boy.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I just want to tell y'all guys, I had an awesome Father's Day.
I am a pushy boss.
Yeah, guys, good, happy Father's Day. Happy Father's to the biological fathers, to the stepfathers, the grandfathers,
the father figures,
the father figures, everybody, the single fathers especially. Happy Father's Day. Thank you so much for joining. Have a great night.
Stay solid. Stay safe.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, bye.
Okay.